This is lovely. Come unto me, and I will give thee rest. Beautiful. This is Philip Kramer. His death went into the paper. He was apparently one of the best known Detroit Germans. And they owned the Michigan Volksblatt. I think it was a paper of some sort. Philip Kramer. So this is the looks like the Kramer family plot. And I was looking for John J and Anna Kramer, but unfortunately I can't find their graves. The reason I was looking for those is that you guys that watch my channel know that I don't always speak about famous people, but I do talk about other notable graves. And I'm also interested in the stories of people who have overcome huge odds to get to the top of their respective chosen fields, or those that have carried out acts of bravery or done good things. Well, this grave is none of them. Well, it may be, but I do not know too much about this couple. But what I did read is very sad. So John J and Anna Kramer were husband and wife, and a double funeral was held for them. John had fallen down the stairs at a friend's home and was injured so badly that he was hospitalised. His wife Anna, who had a weak heart, died of a heart attack when told of her husband's injury. So she died, and then John died later in hospital. And I just thought that that was really quite a sad story. But in a way, it's not, is it? Because they both went together. And they are buried together, but I cannot find, for the love of me, their grave marker. But anyway, this is the Kramer family plot. They're all Kramers, all this lot here. But I can't find John J and Anna. But definitely an interesting story. So at Mount Elliott Cemetery in Detroit, there's a memorial here, which I'll show you in a sec. But I want to talk about, there was a disaster on the Detroit River. A pleasure steamer named Garland collided with a steam yacht named Mammy just below Grassy Island Light on the Detroit River, July 22nd, 1880. The bow of the Garland struck the Mammy and rode right over, cutting her in half. There was some delay in launching a lifeboat from the Garland, and before it had cleared, the Mamie had sunk. The sinking took no time at all, and it was very, very quick. Of the 24 persons on board the Mamie, 17 died. On that boat was a party consisting of Reverend Father Blaenberg of the Holy Trinity Church in Detroit, 16 altar boys of the church and friends. The vessel was returning to Detroit from a trip to Monroe. On the Garland was a large party of Detroit Stove Works employees. All of the altar boys of the church were aged from 11 to 14 years. And this plot here is for the Cuddy family that lost two boys, David 1869 to 1880, and William 1866 to 1880. They both drowned. That's so sad. I mean, the disaster's sad, but then to lose 2 members of your family, 2 of your kids, that's awful. So yeah, David and William are in this plot here. Rest in peace, boys. I think I say this about all cemeteries, but this one is really rather lovely. It's extremely quiet, well kept. It's a bit chilly in Detroit today, it's a bit rainy, but it's okay. I don't know who these are, but I will do some checks later. But there's a lot of these blue plaques around St Albin. These are all Elliott. Number 5, Moran. So this is Charles F. Peltier. He was born in 1844, died in 1913. It's all Peltier family. So he was in the insurance business in partnership with his father for 50 years. He had no children. When he died, his only survivor was his sister Agnes. So I wanted to speak about this grave because I felt it was quite poignant. So the death of Charles's sister Agnes ended the family line in this country. I felt kind of sad for this one. I wonder if they had unknown family members in another country. I would hope they did. A family line ending is really heartbreaking. But yeah, that's the Peltier family. Well, so there's Nina, Charles, Helena, Martha, Mary, Eliza. Looks like Chaz, Francis, Marion. So this is Marie Caroline Watson, born February 22nd, 1850. She died June 20th, 1885. She was an author and historian, and author of the book Legends of Le Detroit, originally published in 1884. The book chronicled early Detroit. Yeah, Marie Hamlin. Apart from the weather, apart from it being rainy, it's not too cold. Although I have layered up today. Nestler. So I really need to look up some of these. Not even a day old. Oh, Flynn. Captain Patrick Casserly, 1861, 15 Mitch Infantry, 1865. That's lovely, isn't it? So here's the Blake family. I want to talk about Patrick Blake. He was born the 5th of November 1833 and he died the 20th of August 1903. Patrick came to Detroit when he was 14 years. He was a shoemaker and later a furniture dealer. He fathered 12 children. And in 1865 he started his own undertaking business. And the most unusual funeral he directed was preceded by the wedding of the deceased's daughter. So picture this if you can. In 1883, Mrs. Joshua Axtell's funeral service was held at her home address. Patrick attended to direct the funeral. Whilst there, a family member told him that Mrs. Axtell's daughter was to be married and that she wanted him present at the wedding. And the wedding was also to be held at the home address. So Patrick went into a bedroom where the wedding took place. He then moved into the parlour where the funeral proceeded. 4 years later, the daughter died and Patrick directed her funeral. There you go, strange things, huh? Rest in peace, Patrick. So I found the Scheibeck family. I'm really sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. I'm terrible with pronunciations. But Frank, born June 28th, 1865, died October 22nd, 1956. There's Frank. And Frank was a shortstop in professional baseball. He played 8 seasons of Major League for the Cleveland Blues, Detroit Wolverines, Toledo Maui's, Pittsburgh Pirates, Washington Senators and the Detroit Tigers and other teams. His debut was on May 9th in 1887. He played his last game September 13th, 1906. And in the 30s and 40s, his occupations were listed as real estate salesman and then as a busher in an auto buckling department. I have no idea what that even means. He died in hospital aged 91 years old. That's Frank. And the Scheibeck family. Rest in peace, Frank and family. So this is the Donovan family in these ones. But Daniel was Dr. Daniel Donovan. On some records it's O'Donovan. But he was born October 10th, no he wasn't, October 28th, 1851. And he passed away 13th of July 1936. Now Daniel was born to Irish immigrants in Ontario, Canada. And at the age of 21 he began his study of medicine and received a doctorate of medicine from the University of Michigan in 1876. He practiced in Manistee and Ludington in Michigan before moving to Corktown in Detroit in 1881. So in Corktown he made his rounds on foot, tending to many poor patients free of charge. He was Detroit's first medical examiner, a position he held for 25 years, and his medical career spanned 60 years. He married Isabel in 1889 and they had a house in Baker Street. They had 6 children, but unfortunately the baby girl Mary, who was born in 1904, died at less than 4 months old. Another daughter, Marianne, was killed in February 1905 after a horse-drawn bobsled she was riding on was hit by a streetcar. She was only 9 years old. It was sad. And I read that whilst her coffin was being carried out of the church, a Sherman streetcar collided with the hearse, scraping the hearse. The streetcar that hit the hearse was the one that caused the death of the child in the first place. That's awful. Absolutely awful. There she is. Marianne. Family reunited. And baby Isabel. May 17th, 1904, September 2nd, 1904. There you go. Donovan family with Dr. Daniel Donovan. Rest in peace, all of you. Unusual colouring on that one. It's beautiful. Bernard and Mary. Wow. Brennan. Peter and Mary. That obviously means there's some significance, but I'll have to look them up. That's lovely. So, Peter Brennan is already on my list. Just shows, doesn't it? So Peter was a builder and contractor, and he built the Detroit Opera House and was a principal subcontractor on City Hall. When he was young, he was apparently a formidable boxer. At the age of 20, he swam across the Niagara River below Whirlpool, and this has only been accomplished by a few people. Peter kept horses, and his horses were widely known at the local racetracks. He had property worth millions of dollars in downtown Detroit. And he was apparently in New York when the Barnum's American Museum burned down, setting free many wild animals. After watching the fire that night, he and a close friend headed for home. On the way, they discovered an animal which they mistook for a dog crouching in a doorway. One of them made a leash out of his belt, and the scared animal followed them calmly. It is said that they tied the dog to the bedpost and went to bed. And then the next morning, they discovered their new dog was Barnum's panther. However, having read that about Peter Brennan, I had a look at the reports of the Barnum Museum, and the story is this. And to be frank, it's not very pleasant for me as an animal lover, but here goes. The Barnum American Museum opened in New York in 1841 at the corner of Broadway and Ann Street in Lower Manhattan. The museum was filled with taxidermy of animals, wax figures, rare artifacts and human oddities. And he also had a bunch of live exotic animals. On the 13th of July 1865, a fire broke out at the museum. People and live exotic animals fled the fire. Unfortunately for the animals that made it outside, they were clubbed and shot in front of the onlookers. Other animals perished in their enclosures. There were 3 whales in tanks in the basement. Someone had broken the glass of the tanks in the hope that the water would douse the flames. Well, of course it did not. The whales trapped in their tanks boiled to death. No humans were harmed as a result of the fire, and all made it out alive. And newspaper reports state that the rumours of a lion roaming Manhattan were greatly exaggerated. They did not mention a panther though. I wonder how likely it was that Barnum's panther trotted on home with Peter. Who knows? Rest in peace, Peter and Mary, the Brennans. So this is Bernard C. Crewe. Maybe you can see that. So basically he was born in 1888 and he died December 30th, 1918. And he was killed in action in Russia as part of the 339th K Company Polar Bear Expeditionary Forces. He was killed in the second push to capture the town of Kodish. So 450 American soldiers dislodged 2,000 Bolsheviks in this successful offensive in which Sergeant Crewe gave his life. The name on his service records is different. So I've seen Crow and Grew, which this is Grew. So we're going to go with Grew, not Crew. Bernard C. Crewe, thank you for your service. Said it again. Bernard C. Grew, thank you for your service. This is the family here by the looks of it. Found a goose. Canadian one at that. I think that one over there, it's a different cemetery, is Elmwood, which I'm going to after. So since around 1866 there has been a Detroit Firemen Fund Association. They paid benefits to the families of paid firemen who died on duty. It used to be that firemen were buried individually in individually purchased lots, and this was quite expensive. So the association purchased large lots for about $500 each in both Mount Elliott and Elmwood cemeteries. Fund members already buried in the cemeteries were reinterred to the new large plots. On July the 5th, 1889, the Firemen's Fund erected a monument on this one, which is the Mount Elliott plot. And there's a similar one that was already in the Elmwood Cemetery. And that one had been dedicated in 1876. So the Detroit Firefighters Association hold yearly Memorial Day services at either Mount Elliott or Elmwood. Any active or retired firefighter who is a member of the Firemen's Fund may be buried in one of these plots. The only costs are the opening and closing of the grave. So these are all firemen, effectively. That's really lovely. Yeah, so it's the Firemen Association plots. Rest in peace, guys. Rest in peace. It's always weird when I see my own last name. I don't know why. It just is.